A battlefield, silent after fire and smoke. A human soldier walks through the ruins of a dead alien city. He is told to destroy every survivor. No mercy, no questions. Then, from behind broken metal, a small voice whispers, "Just one meal." He turns, weapon ready, heart cold from war. But standing there is not a monster, not a warrior. A starving alien child, shaking, alone. This is the same species that burned human colonies. The same enemy that killed thousands. So why is this child begging a human soldier? And why does the soldier hesitate? Because what he does next will either end a war or start something far worse. Now, before we reveal what happens next, welcome to Cosmic Neon Aliens. And my dear respected legends watching, especially those wise warriors above 50. Yes, you sir, the one watching quietly. If stories like this remind you that humanity still matters, then press that subscribe button gently, like you are turning the key of an old spaceship. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? Earth City, small town, or maybe somewhere far beyond? Because what this soldier chooses next will shock the entire galaxy. The planet was dying. Smoke covered the sky like a dark blanket. Broken buildings stood like dead giants. The war between humans and the Zoroth had ended only hours ago. But the silence felt more dangerous than the fighting. Captain Elias Ward moved slowly through the ruins of the alien city. His boots crushed glass and metal under each step. His armor was scratched and burned. His helmet scanner showed no clear life signs, but command had given one final order. Search every sector. Eliminate any remaining alien survivors. No mercy, no exceptions. Elias had followed orders for 6 long years. He had seen human cities burned by Zoroth ships. He had carried wounded soldiers who did not survive. He had watched friends disappear in bright green explosions. War had made his heart hard. Or, at least, he believed it had. A cold wind moved through the empty streets. Loose metal sheets hit walls with soft banging sounds. For a moment, Elias thought he heard something else. A sound too soft to be wind. He stopped walking. His hand tightened around his rifle. He turned off the loud outer speakers of his armor. Now he could hear only his own breathing. Then, there it was again. A weak sound, like someone trying to speak. Elias turned toward a pile of broken transport vehicles. His scanner showed nothing clear. Maybe the signal was too small. Maybe it was hidden, or maybe it was a trap. The Zoroth were known for tricks. They had used fake distress calls before. They had used injured soldiers as bait. Elias stepped closer. Slowly, carefully. His rifle aimed forward, ready to fire. The metal pile shifted slightly. A small shadow moved behind it. Elias's heart did not race. Training had removed that fear long ago. But something felt strange. Too quiet, too weak. "Come out," Elias said in a calm, cold voice. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, a small hand appeared from behind the broken metal. It was thin, shaking, not holding a weapon. Elias narrowed his eyes behind the helmet. Visor, slowly, very slowly. A small Zoroth child stepped into view. The child was no taller than Elias's chest. Its skin, usually bright silver like other Zoroth, looked pale and dull. Its large black eyes looked tired, not angry. Its clothes were torn, burned at the edges, and it was trembling. Elias did not lower his weapon. His mind reminded him of the images from Earth. Human children crying in destroyed cities, Zoroth warships above them. Fire falling from the sky. This was the enemy, even if it was small. Even if it looked weak. The child looked up at him. Its lips moved slowly. At first no sound came out. Then in broken human language, soft and shaking, "Please." Elias's finger moved closer to the trigger. The child swallowed. "Just one meal." The words felt heavy in the air, not an attack. Not a threat, just hunger. Elias stared at the small alien. His scanner confirmed it now. Low body heat, weak pulse, severe malnutrition. It had not eaten in days, maybe longer. "Where are your parents?" Elias asked. His voice sounded harder than he expected. The child's eyes lowered. "No more," it whispered. "They gone." Elias felt something move inside his chest, a memory. His daughter back on Earth. Her small hands holding his before he left for war. "Come back safe, Dad," she had said. He pushed the thought away quickly. This was different. This was the enemy. His radio suddenly made a sharp sound in his helmet. "Captain Ward," command said. "Thermal scans show possible life forms in your sector." Elias stayed silent. "Repeat. Eliminate any remaining alien presence." The child looked at him with wide eyes. It did not understand the words, but it understood the tone. Fear grew in its expression. It took a small step back, almost falling from weakness. Elias could end this right now. One simple movement of his finger, mission complete. Order followed, war remained simple. But the child did not run, did not attack. It only whispered again, "Hungry." The wind moved between them, carrying ash through the broken street. 2. Survivors from opposite sides of a terrible war. Standing in the ruins of hate, Elias felt the weight of his rifle, and the weight of his choice. Somewhere far away, a building collapsed with a loud crash, echoing like a warning. Because what Captain Elias Ward decided in the next few seconds would not only change this child's life, it would change the future of 2 entire species, and maybe start a new kind of war. The alien child did not run. It did not scream. It only stood there, too weak to even be afraid properly. Captain Elias kept his rifle raised, but his hands were no longer steady like before. The war had taught him to see enemies, not children. Yet this small Zorith did not look like the monsters from battlefield reports. It looked like something the war had forgotten to kill. The child's stomach made a small sound. A painful, empty sound. Elias noticed how thin its arms were. How its knees shook just from standing. If this was a trap, it was the weakest trap he had ever seen. "Stay where you are," Elias ordered. The child nodded slowly. Its large black eyes never left the food pack attached to Elias's armor belt. Elias noticed that hunger was stronger than fear. He tapped his wrist scanner again. No hidden heat signals nearby. No movement on upper floors. No signs of an ambush squad, only wind, broken metal, and silence. His radio crackled. Again. "Captain Ward, report status," command demanded. Elias looked at the child. If he reported the truth, they would send drones. The drones would not ask questions. "Sector clear," Elias said finally. The lie felt heavy, but it left his mouth easily. There was a short pause on the radio. Understood. Move to the next zone. The channel closed, for the first time in years. Elias had disobeyed a direct order. The child's eyes followed every small movement he made. "You said." "Your parents are gone," Elias said. The child nodded. "Big fire from sky," it said slowly in broken human words. "Loud ships. Building fall. They not wake up." Elias knew that description. Orbital strike. Human retaliation. He had helped guide that attack from his command screen. He felt something cold inside him. Not anger, not pride. Something else. The child suddenly swayed. Its legs gave up. It fell forward. Elias reacted fast, catching it before it hit the ground. The alien felt light. Too light. like holding bones wrapped in thin skin. The child's breathing was weak, its body temperature dropping. Without thinking more, Elias removed a small emergency ration pack. He tore it open and placed it in front of the child. The smell of processed human protein filled the air. The child stared at it, unsure. "It won't hurt you," Elias said quietly. The child reached out slowly, took the food, then began eating fast. Too fast, small hands shaking. As it tried to swallow quickly, Elias watched carefully. If this was poison to its species, it would show signs, but instead, the child's breathing slowly became stronger. Its eyes looked less empty. After a few seconds, it stopped eating. It pushed the pack slightly back toward Elias. "For you," it said softly. Elias blinked. "You keep it," he replied. The child shook its head. "Share," it said. One simple word. Elias did not know why that word felt heavier than all the war speeches he had heard. Before he could answer, his scanner flashed red. Motion detected, not one signal, multiple, fast-moving. Approaching from the east side of the ruined street. Elias immediately pulled the child close to the broken wall. His rifle raised again. The scanner showed at least 6 Zoroth life signs, armed, searching. The child looked confused, then scared. "They not like me," it whispered quickly. Elias studied the signals. These were soldiers. Strong. Heat readings, combat gear, maybe a surviving Zoroth patrol. Or maybe they were tracking this child. The thought hit him hard. What if the child carried a tracking implant? What if feeding it had just revealed his position? Elias quickly scanned the child's body with a short-range sensor. There, a faint metallic signal inside its shoulder. Too organized to be natural, a tracking chip. The child did not even know. The approaching footsteps grew louder. Metal boots hitting broken concrete. Voices speaking in sharp alien tones. The patrol was close. Very close. Elias had seconds to decide. Leave the child and escape, or remove the tracker and protect it. But removing it would take time. And time was something he did not have. The shadow of armed Zoroth soldiers began to appear at the end of the street, weapons ready, scanning the ruins. The child looked up at Elias with silent fear. Trust already forming in its tired eyes. And for the first time since the war began, Captain Elias Ward felt something more dangerous than bullets, responsibility. Because now the patrol was turning into their street, and they were coming straight toward them. The shadows reached the corner first, long, sharp, moving across broken walls like hunting blades. Captain Elias did not breathe for a second. 6 Zoroth soldiers stepped into the ruined street, tall, armored, weapons glowing. With blue energy, they were not weak. They were not starving. They were trained killers. The small child pressed closer to Elias. It did not cry. It only whispered, "They take children for war camps." Elias looked down. "At the child, war camps?" he asked quietly. The child nodded fast. "Train, change mind, make hate humans." Elias felt a sharp anger inside him, not toward the child, toward the war itself. The patrol leader lifted a device into the air, a tracking scanner. It beeped slowly, then faster, pointing directly toward Elias and the child. The tracker inside the child's shoulder was active. That was how they found them. The patrol began spreading out. 2 soldiers moved left. 2 moved right. 1 stayed behind the leader. Perfect formation, professional. Elias quickly checked his ammo count. Low, very low. He could maybe take down 2, maybe 3 if lucky, but not all 6. And not while protecting a child. He looked around fast. Ruined buildings, collapsed bridge ahead. A half-destroyed underground train entrance on the opposite side of the street. If he could reach that entrance, they might escape into tunnels, but the street between them was open. Too open. The patrol leader suddenly stopped walking. Its helmet turned slowly, looking directly toward Elias's hiding spot. It raised its weapon. Blue light charging. The child trembled. "They will not stop," it whispered. Elias made his decision. Not by command rules, not by war logic, but by something older. He lifted the child into his arms, then stepped out from behind the broken wall. The patrol reacted instantly, weapons aimed at him, energy beams ready to fire. Elias fired first, one clean shot. The soldier on the left fell. Before the others could adjust, Elias threw a smoke grenade across the street. Thick gray smoke exploded around them. Confusion, shouting in alien language. Energy shots fired blindly through the smoke. Concrete exploded around Elias. He ran, fast, holding the child tight against his armor. A blue energy beam passed just inches from his shoulder, burning the wall behind him. The child covered its face. Elias reached the train entrance. Sliding down the broken stairs, another blast hit the top of the entrance. Metal collapsed behind him, blocking direct view from above. They were inside, but not safe. Dark tunnels stretched ahead. Emergency red lights flickered weakly. Water dripped from broken pipes. Elias placed the child down gently. "We need to remove the tracker," he said. The child looked confused. "Tracker?" Elias scanned its shoulder again. "There is a metal chip inside you," he explained. "That is how they follow you." The child's eyes widened in fear. "They say it for protection." Elias gave a small bitter smile. "Not protection," he said quietly. "Control." Heavy footsteps echoed from the tunnel entrance above. The patrol had found the stairs. They were coming down. Elias pulled out a small medical blade from his kit. He looked at the child. "This will hurt," he said honestly. "But you must stay quiet." The child nodded bravely. No tears, no panic. Elias worked fast, cutting carefully into the thin skin. The child bit its own arm to stop from screaming. Finally, a small metallic chip dropped into Elias's hand. Still blinking red, he crushed it under his boot. The signal stopped. But the soldiers were already close. Voices echoed through the tunnel. Flashlights scanning the darkness. Elias picked up the child again. They moved deeper into the underground system, but something felt wrong. Too organized, too fast. As they turned a corner, Elias froze. Not Zorath soldiers, not human troops. Something else stood in the tunnel ahead. Tall figures, dark armor he had never seen before. No Zorath markings, no human symbols. Their weapons looked different, strange, advanced, and one of them spoke in perfect human language. Captain Elias Ward. The voice was calm, cold. "We were hoping you would protect the child." Elias's heart tightened. How did they know his name? And why did they want the child alive? The tunnel suddenly felt smaller, darker, because now Elias understood one terrifying truth. The Zorath patrol was not the real danger. They were only the first wave. Asterisk. The tunnel lights flickered again. Red, then black, then red. Captain Elias slowly stepped back. The child clung to his armor. In front of them stood 4 tall figures. Their armor was smooth and dark, almost like liquid metal. No human symbol, no Zorath mark, nothing familiar. The one in front lowered its weapon slightly, not in peace, but in control. "We are not your enemy, Captain Ward," the figure said calmly. Its voice was clear, perfect human accent. Elias kept his rifle aimed at its head. "You know my name," Elias replied. "That makes you an enemy." The figure tilted its helmet slightly, almost curious. "We know many names," it said. "We have watched this war from the beginning. Behind Elias, distant footsteps echoed. The Zorith patrol was still searching the upper tunnel. Time was closing around him from both sides. "Who are you?" Elias demanded. The figure answered without fear. "We are the architects." The word felt strange in the air. "Architects of what?" Elias asked. "Of balance," the figure replied. The child looked at them with wide eyes. It whispered softly, "They take children." Elias felt anger rise again. "What do you want with this child?" The figure stepped forward. "Information," it said simply. Elias's grip tightened on his weapon. "It's just a starving kid," he snapped. The figure paused, then shook its head slowly. "No. This child carries genetic memory from its bloodline." Elias frowned. "Speak clearly." The figure lifted a small device. A hologram appeared in the air. It showed ancient Zorith leaders meeting strange shadowed beings. The image changed secret agreements, weapons trades. Then the image showed human warships receiving unknown energy upgrades. Elias's eyes widened. "That's impossible." "It is very possible," the architect replied calmly. "We supplied both sides." The tunnel felt colder. "You started this war?" Elias asked quietly. "We encouraged it," the figure corrected. "Conflict drives evolution. Conflict creates strength. Weak species fade. Strong species rise." Elias felt disgust. "You used billions of lives like an experiment." "Yes," the figure answered without emotion. The child tightened its grip on Elias's armor. "My parents," it whispered. "Necessary." "Loss," the architect said coldly. Elias felt something inside him break. For years he believed the war was about survival, about revenge, about defense. But now, it was manipulation. A controlled fire, and both humans and Zorith were burning inside it. "You could have ended it any time," Elias said. "Yes," the figure replied. "Then why now?" The architect pointed toward the child. "This bloodline contains archived genetic memory of early contact between Zorith leaders and our kind." Elias understood slowly. "The child is proof." "Yes, if this memory spreads, the war ends." "And that disrupts your experiment," Elias finished. The architect did not deny it. Footsteps grew louder behind them. The Zorith patrol was almost inside the lower tunnel now. Energy weapons glowing in the dark. Elias was trapped between two forces, the soldiers who wanted to capture the child, and the architects who wanted to silence it forever. "You're not taking the child," Elias said firmly. The architect raised its weapon slightly. "You cannot win this, Captain." "Maybe not," Elias replied, "but I don't need to win." He reached into his armor and activated a short-range signal beacon. Emergency broadcast, not to command. "To every open frequency in orbit, human. Zorith. Anyone listening, a raw transmission. Unknown third party manipulating both sides of conflict." Elias spoke clearly. "Evidence confirmed. Repeat. War based on external control." The architect moved fast, but too late. The signal was already sent. The tunnel entrance exploded as Zorith soldiers rushed in. Weapons aimed at Elias, then at the architects. Confusion filled the space. The Zorith patrol leader shouted something in shock. Even they had never seen these dark armored beings before. For 1 second, all sides stared at each other, humans. Zorith, architects. 3 forces standing in the same broken tunnel. And the child, small, wounded, holding the truth inside its blood. The architect's voice cut through the silence. "This is unfortunate." Their weapons began charging with a strange purple light, more powerful than anything Elias had seen before. The tunnel walls vibrated, dust falling from above. Elias pulled the child close. The Zorith soldiers adjusted their aim toward the new threat. Enemies seconds ago, now forced to face something worse. And as the purple energy grew brighter, Elias realized something terrifying. The architects had never planned to leave. Survivors, not human, not Zorith, not even the child. Because balance sometimes meant complete destruction. Asterisk purple light filled the tunnel. It was not like human lasers. Not like Zorith plasma. This energy felt alive, breathing. Growing, hungry, the architects lifted their weapons together. 4 beams began to charge at the same time. Captain Elias pulled the child behind a broken support pillar. The Zorith patrol reacted fast. Their leader shouted a sharp command. Blue energy bolts fired toward the architects. The tunnel exploded with light. Purple and blue beams crashed into each other. The walls cracked. Concrete rained down from above. One Zorith soldier was hit directly by the purple blast. It did not fall. It simply disappeared, turned into dust in a second. Elias felt cold fear move through his chest. These were not soldiers fighting for land. These were something else, something far beyond normal war. The child covered its ears. Screams echoed in the narrow space. The architect in front stepped forward calmly. Energy beams curved around it, like controlled fire. "You see now," it said loudly. "Your war was small." Another purple blast fired. This time toward Elias. He pushed the child down and rolled to the side. The beam struck the pillar instead. The metal melted instantly. The heat burned through Elias's armor. Warning alarms flashed inside his helmet. Damage critical, oxygen leak detected, across the tunnel. The Zorith patrol leader saw the same thing Elias saw. These beings were not allies, not saviors. They were executioners. The Zorith leader turned its weapon, not at Elias. At the architects, for the first time since the war began. Human and Zorith fired at the same enemy. Blue and red bolts filled the tunnel. One architect stumbled slightly. Its shield flickered. Elias noticed that. "They are not invincible," he muttered. The child looked up at him. "What do we do?" it whispered. Before Elias could answer, one architect suddenly aimed directly at the child, not at Elias. At the small trembling figure behind him. "Primary objective," the architect said coldly. "Genetic archive. Must be erased." Time slowed for Elias. He was too far. Too slow. The purple beam began forming at the weapon's tip. The Zorith patrol leader saw it too, in a shocking move. The alien soldier jumped forward, standing between the child and the blast. The purple beam fired. It struck the Zorith leader's chest. The armor cracked. Energy burned through its body. But it did not fall immediately. It stayed standing, shielding the child with its own body. The blast ended. The leader collapsed to its knees, smoke rising from its armor. Elias stared in disbelief. An enemy soldier had just saved the child, saved both of them. The dying Zorith looked at Elias. Its voice weak. "This child is not war," it said slowly. "It is future." Then it fell, silent. The architect seemed almost irritated. "Emotional behavior," one of them said. "Predictable weakness." Elias felt something powerful rise inside him. Not fear, not anger alone, unity. He looked at the remaining Zorith soldiers. They looked back at him. No words were needed. For one moment, they were not enemies. They were survivors. Facing extinction together. Elias quickly scanned the tunnel ceiling. Old transport explosives were still attached along the upper rail system. Leftover demolition charges from earlier battles. If triggered, the entire tunnel could collapse. It would bury everyone inside, including the architects. But also them. Unless they reached the emergency side shaft in time. He made his choice. He shouted to the Zorith soldiers. "Fall back to the west shaft." They understood the direction. Even without knowing the language, sometimes survival speaks clearly. Elias activated the detonator sequence from his armor interface. 30 seconds. The architects noticed the movement. They advanced faster now, purple beams firing wildly. 2 more Zorath soldiers fell. Elias grabbed the child's hand and ran. The remaining alien soldiers followed, footsteps pounding. Explosions shaking the tunnel. 20 seconds, 10 seconds. They reached the side shaft entrance. Elias pulled the child inside. The last Zorath soldier jumped through. 5 seconds. The architects stood in the center of the tunnel, weapons glowing brighter. Almost. Smiling beneath their dark helmets. 3, 2, 1. The tunnel exploded. Fire and rock swallowed everything behind them. The ground shook like an earthquake. Dust filled the air. Silence followed. Elias coughed, holding the child close. The side shaft had partially collapsed, but they were alive. For now, above them, the war was still burning across the planet. But deep underground, something had changed forever. An enemy had become a shield. And a new question had been born. If even enemies could protect a child, then who were the real monsters in this war? Asterisk dust filled the narrow side shaft. Small rocks still falling from above. Captain Elias held the child close until the shaking stopped. For a few seconds, there was only silence. No purple light, no blue weapons, no shouting. Just the sound of their breathing. The last Zorath soldier slowly stood up. Its armor cracked, one arm damaged. But it was alive. Elias looked at it carefully. A few hours ago, they would have tried to kill each other without hesitation. Now they had survived the same explosion together. The child looked at the Zorath soldier. "Leader gone," it whispered sadly. The soldier lowered its head, a sign of respect. Then it looked at Elias. No anger in its eyes. Only understanding. "We fight wrong enemy," the soldier said in broken human language. Elias nodded slowly. "Yes, we do." He activated his wrist communicator again. The emergency broadcast he had sent earlier should have reached orbit, if anyone was listening. Static answered him first. Then voices, human command. Confused, angry. "Captain Ward, explain your last transmission," a general demanded. Before Elias could answer, another voice broke into the channel, a Zorath command signal. Rarely had both sides shared the same frequency, but now they were hearing the same message. "We also detected unknown vessels in high orbit," the Zorath commander said. Elias looked up toward the cracked ceiling. Unknown vessels. The architects were not only underground, they were above the planet too, watching, waiting. Suddenly the child grabbed Elias's arm. Its eyes unfocused, strange, distant. "They are coming," it whispered softly. Elias frowned. "What do you mean?" The child placed its hand over its own chest. "Memory. I see ships, big ones, hidden behind moon. Genetic memory." The architect had spoken the truth about that part. The child carried stored ancestral data, images from long ago, maybe even live signals connected to architect technology. Elias felt cold realization. "They were never here to guide balance," he said quietly. "They were preparing invasion." The Zorath soldier's eyes widened slightly. "War. Weaken both sides," it said slowly. "Yes," Elias replied. "Two strong species fighting each other, wasting fleets, losing soldiers, destroying cities, easy to conquer after." The truth settled heavily in the small tunnel. The architects had not wanted evolution, they wanted control. Total control over two powerful civilizations. A distant rumble shook the shaft again, but this time it was not underground. It came from above. Elias switched his scanner to orbital view. Through damaged satellite feed, he saw it. Dark shapes appearing from behind the planet's moon. Massive ships far larger than human or Zorith cruisers. Their surfaces smooth and black. No lights, no signals. Silent giants moving toward the planet. Human command was shouting across the channel. Zorith fleets were scrambling into defensive positions. But both sides were exhausted from war, ships damaged, weapons low, trust completely broken, and above them, the real enemy had finally arrived. The child suddenly screamed. Softly, not in fear. In pain, Elias saw faint glowing lines appear under the child's skin, purple patterns. The architects had left something deeper than a tracker. A signal. The ships in orbit were locking onto that signal, using the child as a beacon. The Zorith soldiers stepped back in shock. They marked child for targeting. Elias clenched his jaw. No, he said firmly. They marked the child for command access. He studied the glow pattern carefully. It was not random. It looked like code coordinates. If decoded correctly, it could reveal the location of the main architect command ship, the brain behind the operation. But there was almost no time. The first dark ship fired. A beam toward the surface, not at cities, at spaceports, destroying launch centers, cutting off escape. This was not war. This was harvest. Elias opened a direct channel to both human and Zorith fleets. His voice clear, urgent. Listen carefully, he said. The architects are invading. They used our war to weaken us. The child carries their command signal. If we combine our fleets now, we can track and strike their main ship before full deployment. Silence followed. Decades of hate, years of blood, standing between cooperation. Then the Zorith commander spoke first. We confirm unknown fleet strength beyond our capacity alone. Human general hesitated, then answered slowly. Temporary alliance accepted. Elias felt the moment shift, history turning quietly. Two enemies choosing survival over pride, above them. Human and Zorith ships began forming a joint defense line. Weapons charging side by side, for the first time. Not aiming at each other, but at the real threat. Elias looked down at the child, the purple glow still pulsing softly. You are not their weapon, he said gently. You are the key to stopping them. The child looked up at him, fear still in its eyes, but also trust. Above the broken planet, the largest architect ship moved forward, its surface opening slowly, preparing something far worse than invasion. And Elias knew one thing with complete certainty. If they failed now, there would be no more humans. No more Zorith, only silence across the stars. Asterisk, the sky above the broken planet was no longer dark. It was filled with ships. Human destroyers with damaged wings. Zorith cruisers with cracked armor, and in front of them all, the massive black architect command ship, cold, silent, waiting. Inside a small underground control room connected to an old space elevator, Captain Elias stood beside the alien child. The purple glow under the child's skin was brighter now, not painful anymore, almost steady, like a heartbeat. Human and Zorith engineers worked together around them. No shouting, no insults, only fast hands and focused eyes. For the first time, they were building something together, a signal decoder. Using both human and Zorith technology. Combining knowledge that had once been used to destroy each other, now used to survive. The child closed its eyes. Images flashed in its mind, ancient meetings, architect ships hidden in deep space, secret energy stations behind the moon.